for whatever reason, we're just obsessed with liquids. Like you cannot catch an American without walking around like with a friggin' Stanley tumbler or a big cup of coffee. Or people get mad when you say that. I think it is one of the best cuisines in the world, but people get very mad when you say that. While you're eating, you're talking about what you're going to eat and what you have eaten that day, or like what you're going to eat tomorrow. So
there's something I honestly learned through your content. Even I was not aware of that, because you wrote about like secret gastronomic societies. Hi everyone. So today we're joined by someone who made it his life mission to decode the magic of French food. So what better place to do that than Paris? So we're with Maximilian, that I will call Max.
Yep.
Easier for me to pronounce.
Maximilian.
You're like a self-taught food critic, or in the matter, food critic. Well, Max, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Fabien. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, and well, you might not hear that, but like Max is perfectly fluent in French as well. I'm impressed, I must say.
I appreciate it. Not perfectly, not by any means, but
no accent is perfect for me.
I fake it. Fake it
until you make it.
Work hard on your accent first, and then worry about the language later.
Yeah, well, you fake it pretty well. So, let's start with the beginning, because France and food, we have like a deep relationship.
Yep.
But you come from the US, and so let's start with the beginning. What got you into obsessed, I would say, with French food?
Well, it was a long time. It took a long time for me to get interested in French food. As a kid, I was actually quite a picky eater.
Okay.
And
where did you grow up?
I grew up in Rhode Island, northeast, small state in the Union, for those who don't know. Yeah, on the East Coast, nice kind of beach area. And so on my dad is German, and on my mother's side, her parents, my maternal grandparents are Sicilian, or were Sicilian. So
okay.
On the one hand, that means you grow up with a lot of great food, right? You know, your grandmother's going to be cooking a lot. You have a lot of rituals and traditions on holidays, and it's nice to have all that delicious food around. But on the other hand, the Italian grandmother's kind of a trap for foodies, because the second she detects that you don't like something, she's in the kitchen making something else for you. Like she'll just make you a plain pasta with red sauce. Or they're too accommodating to their grandchildren. So the first maybe 13 years of my life, I was actually quite a picky eater.
Okay.
And then I took a trip to Sicily, which really opened my eyes to different food and unique ingredients and stuff that I was really afraid of before, because I had these relatives of mine that I had never met before that I didn't want to offend. And I was like, also, I was getting older. I'm like, come on, I got to buck up and try be a little bit explorative. So that's what opened my eyes to food. And then just throughout my late teens, traveling throughout Europe, that's when I got into, I came to France for the first time when I was maybe 18 years old, 18, 19. And it just came from a curiosity of like, what is French food? I want to know more about it, because I really didn't know. Despite the mythology around it, I didn't know exactly what it is. So. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, nice story. You've touched base on an interesting topic that, like, watching at your content, got me to realize he has a good point there. He said, like, obviously, the French, we go out we go to restaurants for the food, obviously, but the ambience and like kind of the rituals as well are like a big part of this. Like, what would that be? I mean, according to you, like, what do you think? I mean, what would you say that?
What would I attribute that to? Like
like the ambience, like saying like the French have a relationship with food, but also kind of the ambience and kind of the rituals around food.
Right. I don't know. Well, it's kind of it's tough to say exactly where those rituals come from, but it definitely is part of the culture, just to no matter what you're doing, to do one thing. When you're doing that thing, you're doing one thing. Even if it's down to, the French might make fun of an American for like snacking throughout the day, or like snacking at your desk, or snacking, between the meals.
Yes, snacking period.
Snacking period. Because either you're eating or you're not. You're going to sit down, even if it's for a little snack, like, okay, you're going to sit down at a table with a glass of wine and have like a little snack to eat with it, a little like, saucisson sèche or something. Or, it's not, you're not going to be even in the movie theaters, like, yeah, they sell popcorn, but it's almost
not that popular.
It's not that popular, and it's almost like if you're munching on crunchy snacks during a movie, it's looked at as pretty rude. So you do one thing at a time here, which is nice. And food is just, it's important to every culture, much less my native culture of the United States, but it's how people come together, and the French have preserved that. And I don't know, that's what's so fascinating about the topic, is there's so much about it. There's so much history, so many techniques, and so many like random variables that led to the culture that exists today. So it's cool to explore.
You, just before we got started, you mentioned this. I was actually surprised because a lot of Americans have this fantasy about French food that may come from like the cliche in the movie Ratatouille. So first, how do you pronounce that?
We say Ratatouille, yeah.
That's close
That's
enough.
the correct pronunciation. It's a Disney movie, so.
No, but I was
the correct
surprised.
pronunciation.
That's the same name. Okay. But B, like, what's the reality check behind this?
Yeah.
Like when they actually find out about Parisian food.
Well, I think it can be quite. It depends on what your introduction to French food is, because it can be quite harsh, especially if you arrive in Paris and you don't know where to go. It can be, eye-opening, and it can be, you can have your expectations met as well. And Ratatouille, of course, is the ideal. Like it's a Disney fantasy, so it's not exactly going to be that. Not every kitchen is full of like copper pots and the big tuck, the big tall chef hats, and so it's just like any other place. There are places that just are designed to feed people, or designed to to pump out volume on a busy business lunch, or designed to feed tourists.
What do you think the kind of restaurant is? I mean, if that Ratatouille restaurant existed in real life, that's closer to a Michelin-Star or a bistro? I
think the food that you see in the movie Ratatouille would now maybe be considered more like bistro style cuisine, but just because it's very traditional and very old school. And in gastronomy, in the Michelin stars, they're so like in the year 2050 with what they're trying to, the ingredients they're trying to pull together and the techniques they're trying to use.
The copper pots and you'd get that in a Michelin star.
Yes, that you would. But well, in the more traditional ones, like maybe if you go to La Tour d'Argent, that's so that would actually is probably a comparable restaurant, like a restaurant like La Tour d'Argent, where they're really focused on tradition, but at the highest level, or Paul Bocuse in near Lyon, where is it, Les Collonges or something? I forget where exactly it is. But yeah, so I think it's an old school. It's an example of like this old school étoilé gastronomic restaurant.
Okay.
Yeah.
And well, because we mentioned this, and most from the audience might not live in France or in Paris, or might just come to visit or dream about that.
Yeah.
What would be some typical mistake or tourist traps that they can avoid? And we're talking about restaurants.
Yep. Well, they're all over the place, especially where tourists tend to hang out. So, like the Champs-Élysées, for example, I would just don't even go to the Champs-Élysées when you're in Paris. There's no reason for it, in my opinion. I mean, okay, maybe you have to go check out the Arc de Triomphe or whatever, but you're gonna
attractions. Yes, restaurant. No.
Yeah, no, you will invariably fall into like some terrible tourist trap because it often. The main type of restaurant I think that traps tourists are like the corner kind of like brasserie that are made to look super Parisian. There are some authentic ones, and that's not that Parisians don't go there, but they might go there to hang out more than they would to eat, because the food is 9 times out of 10 kind of industrial garbage.
But you in one of your videos, I think I've heard you say like that was one of these moments when kind of the dream collapsed on you, where you were in a room in a restaurant and everyone was speaking with American accents, for example.
Yeah. So that was a fun experience, and it's something I've experienced time and time again in Paris. Is you go to a restaurant that maybe you've heard a lot about and that you're really excited about, and it looks super authentic. And yeah, you have this whole dream of Paris in your eyes, and you can't wait to try the food. And then you open the door, and it's like Americans everywhere. They've got the Patagonia puffers on. They're like their hiking shoes, and there's just, it reeks of Americans in there. But what I've learned is that that's actually not always a bad sign.
Okay.
It depends on, like, if you've done your research about a restaurant and it's there are people that you respect call it a good restaurant, and you show up and there's a lot of Americans, it doesn't mean that it's like a tourist trap or it's not authentic. It just means that, you know, the Americans that travel to France for food, they're real foodies. They do know what they're talking about. So it can't even be a good sign.
Okay.
And you find it more with the traditional restaurants, like good, authentic traditional restaurants.
So more like high-end.
Yeah, they actually might have more Americans than they will French, especially for the first part of the service because Americans eat early. But because the French are tired of their traditions, you know, they're kind of more interested. You know, sometimes they want to check out what's new and what's buzzy, whereas the Americans, it's all new to us. You know, this is what we came here for. So,
and because that kind of we're beating around this bush.
Yeah.
Let's say someone has like 48 hours in Paris. Is there any particular place that they should absolutely try, or maybe absolutely avoid? But let's focus on the positive side. They should absolutely try, or do, or taste.
If I had 48 hours in Paris and only 48 hours, I would divide my meals into types, restaurant types. So I would do one high-end bistro. You know, I'm using a lot of terms that are kind of have broad definitions, but I would do one high-end traditional bistro with like a spectacular ambiance, good old school cooking. Like Au Lyonnais comes to mind. That's a really good bistro, over a century old, in the second, I believe, arrondissement. And then you have the very famous chef Alain Ducasse. He used to own that one. He owns a couple others as well, Allard and Benoit. So these kind of like institutions of old French cuisine, I would recommend making one of the pillars of your 48-hour visit. Then I would do a gastronomic, like Michelin-Star place.
Okay.
I might do that at lunch, just because you're going to get a better deal. The
Right.
lunch menus are a little bit shorter, and unless you want to go all out and do dinner, then by all means. But if you go out lunch, you still get a really good experience, a special experience, and you get to see kind of the new cutting edge of cuisine.
But Michelin-Star, we have like 1, 2, or 3 stars, so it's in a way it's a broad spectrum.
It is a
as
broad
well.
spectrum too. True. Yeah, and it comes down to your means as well. You know, I probably
right.
wouldn't
That's
be.
a fair point.
Yeah, I'm at my stage in life, I might not be doing, unless it was for a very special occasion, I might not do a 3-star. But there are a lot of 1-stars that are like hungry, ambitious cooks that are reaching for that 2nd and 3rd star, that still offer their skills at a reasonable price. So,
you've mentioned this is also a discussion we just had before we started shooting this. Yeah. That the French, for example, with coffee, they have a different relationship, like the to go, or like grab a coffee on the go and stuff.
Yeah.
Culture is not near as big as it is in the US.
Just to go in general. Yeah.
Yeah. So like people like in France usually would like get the coffee, for example, and sit down in a table, even if they're alone. And you've said that it might, like, ambiance is a big part of this, or would that say it's a
Definitely.
cliche? Or
Well, I think it is. Maybe it's viewed as a cliche, but I don't think it is a cliche. And Americans, like, for whatever reason, we're just obsessed with liquids. Like, you cannot catch an American without walking around like with a friggin' Stanley tumbler or a big cup of coffee, or we're obsessed with hydration and caffeine, and there's always some canister of to-go liquid. And like celebrity shots in the United States, they're always carrying a massive thing of liquid.
No,
Whereas
you mentioned this.
It's so tacky. It's like, what are you doing? Like, you're not going to dehydrate, Like, there's an American There's an American comedian, he says, like, I'm sick of people telling me to dehydrate. I know that I will get thirsty before I dehydrate, okay? So, but yeah, in France, like, you wouldn't do that, because when you do something in France, you're doing that thing. You do one thing at a time. Like, when you're going to have a coffee, okay, you're going to sit down and have a coffee. You might sit down at a little cafe and have a coffee and just read a book or talk to a friend or just stare out into space, or you have it's back to these rituals, You pay attention to the one thing. Each thing has its time. And, now we're getting into the cliche of, okay, maybe life is a little bit slower in France, which I think it is. But, is that such a bad thing?
No.
That we can focus on one.
But I'm biased, but I would agree. Yeah.
Well, I am too.
Actually, around this notion with time, for example, in cafes or restaurants, no one's going to push you out. Here, actually, it's quite the opposite. Like you may be waiting for the waiters to come to your table.
Oh no, it's beautiful. They leave you alone.
And as an American, that might even seem frustrating, like you're getting bad service because they're not coming to you, not necessarily. So what do you think is with France and the French and this relationship with time? Because we've mentioned this, like especially around meals.
Yeah. I think it's like why would you rush somebody while I think it's just viewed as rude. You don't want to rush somebody while they're eating. It is changing, unfortunately. During the service hours, you may start to at a certain type of restaurant they might start to rush you out. But yeah, traditionally you're going to spend a few hours, or you're going to have maybe an apéro. You might have a little drink before you eat, or at the counter or at the table, just to arrive and say hello to everybody before you're going to order your food, and then you have les entrées, which in France, by the way, entrée is appetizer. For us Americans, that's your main course. Oh, I don't know if you knew that.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, an entree so on an American menu you'll see entrees, and that's the main course. Which I don't know how we messed that one up, but
we messed that one
up. But yeah, you have your steps of a meal, and then outside of the meal times. At the typical cafe, that's one of my favorite things, is that nobody's gonna harass you with the check or to rush you out. Like it might be written somewhere in French law that like as long as I don't know if I can say ass on this podcast, but as long as your ass is pressed against that chair, that is your property. You can.
Yeah, I've heard that a few times.
Yeah, they cannot push you off that.
Not
chair.
In English.
Yeah, which is great. So
last month I was in Paris with a few friends, and I wanted to show them a few of the like typical, café chocolat carrette or the Bouillon Chartier, which are very busy places with a queue.
Yeah.
And I was actually surprised that no one pushed us out, and we were there for quite a long time, despite the queue and all. So I think this is quite, because this would be in their interest. To kind of turn tables
you would think
faster.
Especially for the Bouillon Chartier, you would think that they're trying to pump people out because the prices are so low and their whole business model is on volume. But it just goes to show the value on time and taking your time.
There's something I honestly learned through your content. Even I was not aware of that, because you wrote about secret gastronomic societies.
Oh yeah.
Like Le Club des 100?
Le Club des 100, ouais.
Okay. Wow. So basically, France is seeing food as a cult or a religion sometimes, pushing that very far.
Yeah. So. The Club des 100 I learned about from a very famous food critic in France named François-Régis Gaudry, who has a radio show, and he has written a few really great books. Well, he and his collaborators, because they're real bricks. They're big encyclopedias about food. And the Club des 100 is a very old secret society of the 100 biggest gastronomes, the 100 biggest foodies in France. It's a men's only club, so they get a lot of hate for that, which I kind of agree with, because, and not on any type of not because I'm want to stand up for the rights of women, although I probably should, but I just actually think women have better palates than men. But that's another.
You mentioned your girlfriend, for example.
Incredible palate.
Yeah,
it's shocking the ingredients she can distinguish in it.
Yeah, down to the pepper.
Down to the type of pepper. Yeah. She'll pick it out.
Okay, to be, I wouldn't say cheeky, but what is one of the most the most overrated dish that people might come to Paris to try and?
Well.
In your opinion, let's say.
Yeah. Well, I'll probably get a lot of hate for this, but Boeuf Bourguignon is good, but to me, it's so overrated. Everybody needs to get a Boeuf Bourguignon. You've had, whether you know it or not, you've had a Boeuf Bourguignon. It's just braised beef. It's red wine, braised beef. Oh. We've had that, and it's true that it tastes very good, but it's not going to be the best thing, especially when it's well done, it is super delicious, but at a lot of these traditional restaurants in Paris, it's just not that good. And one of the problems when you braise beef for a long time is that you kind of strip the meat of all its flavor. So then, the sauce is very delicious, but then the meat doesn't have a ton of flavor anymore. And at least that's one of my problems with Boeuf Bourguignon. I recently had a very good one at a restaurant called Chez La Vieille
Okay, nice name, interesting name.
Yeah, yeah. But on the menu it was called they called it joue de bœuf braisé au vin rouge or something like that. So it depends on the cut as well. Like here, the French aren't afraid of eating cheek, whereas I think we're a little bit more afraid of cuts like that, where you would never know it was the beef's cheek. But that's a perfect cut because it has a ton of flavor. It has a lot of like connective like tissue that makes a nice thick sauce when that kind of melts out. So.
Interesting, because when you say eating cheek, I was thinking of something different. Are we talking about cannibalism here?
Right. Yeah, that could be misinterpreted a few ways, I guess.
Difficult words.
Yeah.
Okay. It's funny because like the bœuf bourguignon, I think, is more like a daily, well, not daily, but like something I could have quite often at home. But
no,
like
don't get me wrong. I like it a lot, but I just think there are more interesting things to discover when you're in Paris. Like.
So let's see that from another angle then.
Yeah.
What's one of the most underrated dish that they should try?
Well, I think you shouldn't hesitate while you're here to go into what the French call les abats, in English offal, like organ meats, like liver it's not for everybody, but if you haven't tried it, I encourage you to try some form of liver, whether it be foie gras, whether it be calf's liver, foie de veau, just seared with like, a little garlic and parsley butter, or with a little sauce. I love foie de veau. Okay. So I can see, but it is. These are divisive, divisive food groups.
Not everyone likes les abats.
Yeah. But I'm into like nose to tail cooking, and the French never gave up on that. Like there's a butcher by my apartment that in the window they'll still have calf brains, just raw calf brains sitting in the window, which is cool to see that like the whole animal gets used here.
Okay.
But yeah, it's not for everybody. I would try definitely pigeon, because it's not something you find in the United States, and I think people would be surprised what a delicious and like, and how unoffensive it is. It's just if you like duck, you're going to love pigeon. It's a red meat, but it's like super succulent. It has a little bit of fat on the skin. Probably my favorite poultry. Okay. So I would encourage people just to step out of their comfort zone a little bit.
Okay, good. Well, that's good advice. Yeah. And especially on the foie gras, this is like the specialty of my region. So
right, Southwest, right?
Yeah, Southwest.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah, that's fine. Good. Let's talk like a tiny bit about, because, well, you're mostly a content creator, like you were saying, like you're not like a professional food critic, like you do that like anyway as a hobby on social media and as a self-taught. So there's also always, and I think you've mentioned this, like most creators, they try to understand the algorithm, and so how to stay, especially with food, where like how to stay authentic and not going for the clicks.
Yeah, it's an enormous challenge, and that's like at the same time, it's what I hate most about Instagram, but I do enjoy one part of it. But because what I hate about it is that like I do feel like I have to sometimes abandon my authenticity or maybe exaggerate or just to hook people into the video. But at the same time, it is kind of a fun puzzle to figure out, because people think about the algorithm, which it's true, we're creating videos to play to an algorithm, but the algorithm also is built for people. So you're building videos that are meant to hook people. So if you can just think about that becomes a fun puzzle. Like, okay, what would create curiosity for a viewer? What would I listen to and think, oh, I have to hear more of this, more of what this guy's saying, or I want to see more of what's happening in this video, and how long can you keep that hook tugging somebody along, like with more information, more curiosity, more kind of, it's a form of storytelling that is a cool creative outlet. It's very specific, again, because it's tailored to short form content. But
do you feel like pressure to give like harsh critics or opinions just because negativity kind of triggers the algorithm in a good way because it creates more engagement?
I don't. Because when I see that on the internet, especially recently, actually in Paris, I've seen a couple people decide that that's going to be their strategy, is just like being really harsh on certain restaurants. And even some good places, they're throwing a lot of shade at some places just to get clicks, which I think is a bad long-term strategy. And also, I prefer to be critical of a place by saying, I didn't like this, or if I really feel like if I make a video about this place, it's only going to be to like just light it up, just be really harsh, then I don't make the video. I would rather promote what's good than like, you know,
Okay.
and just ignore what's bad and let what's good rise to the top.
As we are on this topic about grading or giving opinions about food, obviously there is always this, and let's get controversial on this, like the Michelin-Star guide, like the Michelin guide. Would you say it's still like the ultimate authority when it comes to restaurants?
I think yes and no, especially in France. I can't speak to the Michelin guide in Asia. I know that's quite controversial, that people say don't trust the Michelin guide once you get into other continents. But in France, I think it's still the reference, because they don't always only have their stars, which I'll get to later, but the stars can be a little bit oppressive. But they have the Bib Gourmand, which is just like value for money, good cooking for a good value. And then they just have Michelin recommended, which recommends all types of restaurants, whether they be casual or a little bit higher end. And the advantage of the Michelin guide is, one, they have a long history of doing this, and they, you know, like them or not, they show up, they pay the bill, and they make an objective decision about the food. And from what I know, I don't know the details very well, but you know, it's quite a rigorous filtering process for when they choose their critics. So you know, it's people that are in the milieu, in the food industry, people that are passionate, people that know what they're talking about. So when I go to a new city in France, or a new neighborhood even, I check the Michelin guide. Like I'm going to Brittany next week, and so I took a look at the Michelin guide just to see what's out there.
So that's actually a good tip then for the audience. Something to...
Yeah. On the other hand, I would say that the stars can get a little bit oppressive, because like in the high-end restaurants, it just seems like everybody's trying to do the same thing to get the stars. You know, so people are copying each other. I worked at a place in D.C., which was really cool back in the United States, but there was somebody on the team. There were two restaurants in the group at the time. One had 2 stars, one had 1 star, and the director of the group would fly every weekend to a different country and eat at different Michelin-star restaurants to get inspiration. But then it also can become like, okay, we're just doing the same thing as everyone else. I don't want to speak badly about that restaurant. I learned a lot there, and it was really cool. But it can be a little bit copycatty because it's too rigid, I feel like.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. Well, and it's difficult to be creative all the time, I suppose.
Yeah. And that's why you see a lot of high-end chefs, a lot of really, really well-known chefs that are saying, you know, I'm done with the Michelin guide. I don't care if I have these stars. They're giving them back. They're, you know, they're judging their worth by different metrics.
I actually... what would you say is the difference? Because, well, we've just mentioned this, but like between like a bistro and a Michelin-Star, you know, it's like, those are two different kind. I mean, apart from the price, obviously, but it's definitely not the same kind of food, is it?
No. Although it's not at all the same kind of food. You know, one is going to work with more humble ingredients. One is going to have the noble ingredients. But I think no matter where you are, no matter how well, this might actually not be true, now that I think about it. But the real difference comes down to the rituals again. And like, you know, are we being, like at a bistro, you're there to be fed a good amount, and fed, you know, quelque chose de costaud, you know, something that's like it got good flavor and good quantity.
You're supposed to have enough for your money, like
Exactly, yeah. You want to get something for your money, whereas in a Michelin-star restaurant, you're paying attention to the craft. You're paying attention to every detail. You're paying attention to the presentation.
This is an experience.
This is more of an experience. It's more of like, you know, there's a lot of performance that goes into it, down to the plating, down to the service, down to maybe you can see parts of the kitchen and you can see the chefs, like, you know, just an obsessive.
Yeah, they will flambe the crème Suzette in front of you.
Yeah.
Or like, this is a spectacle.
Yeah, or just like, you know, the obsessive attention to detail. So it's more of a kind of all-around experience. Like it's an event when you go to a Michelin-star place.
Okay. What would be your preference?
Well, between the two, I would say if I had to leave one, and only have, if I could, if you had a gun to my head, I would take Bistro every day.
Okay.
Because
This is normal food.
yeah, it's normal food, but it's not necessarily like less delicious.
No.
That's a misconception, I think, is like, oh, the food is going to taste better in a Michelin star. That's not true. Like, food is delicious down to street food. The best bite you have in your life might be on a sidewalk somewhere on a little plastic stool. But in a Michelin star, you're there to experience something new, see skills that you never even imagined. But yeah, I mean, for the everyday and for real good, hearty food, I would choose Bistro.
You've mentioned a few places, like if they have only 48 hours, but maybe like to broaden the question a bit and to be dropping more names.
Yeah.
Could you recommend a few places more like leaning on the bistro side that you think people should try if they can?
Yeah. So let's see. The thing is, I haven't been to too many traditional bistros recently because I kind of focus more on like the Bistronomy, which is that's a good
in
term.
between.
That's a good term to know actually if you're coming here. Which maybe it's well known internationally now, but yeah, it's in between like bistro style food and gastronomic. So you're getting rid of the oppressive Michelin star rituals, but you still have a high level of cooking with cool ingredients.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's cool.
So actually, that's like the category of restaurant that I would go to most, and that's one that I would add that people should visit when they're here.
That's good advice.
But
I Googled that, like Bistronomy.
Yeah. Like there's a lot of great bistronomic restaurants that I like. Like my favorite in Paris still, it's been a little while since I've been there, is Magnolia in the 9th arrondissement. Actually, an American chef.
Oh.
The owner of the restaurant is French, but the chef is American, who just has insane chops. Like everything he does, you really get Michelin quality there, but for not too expensive, really nice, relaxed ambiance, cool wine, good service. But the food is just like for me, it blows my mind. I'm gonna hype it up too much, but because people, I've had other opinions.
Well,
about
people
that.
from the audience, if you want to comment on this, like if you try it and comment, I'd be happy to see.
But there's another place, Cuisine, which I like a lot. That's another bistronomic place.
Cuisine, like a cuisine.
Just called Cuisine, like kitchen in French. Yeah.
Okay. I had to find on Google. Like if you Google Cuisine,
it is. That's that's a common problem. But the 11th arrondissement is kind of like the hot spot for this type of restaurant.
Okay.
And I think actually a lot of Americans are kind of in tune to that scene a little bit.
And let's say if people want to indulge, and let's say like they go higher end, so obviously then we're going to be leaning towards Michelin-star territory.
Yeah.
Would there be a few names saying like you'd like to drop, like things like, okay, that's worth the money or the experience?
Yeah, totally. Cipsel is a new opening on the Ile Saint-Louis, which I recommend for several reasons. One of them being that you get to eat on the Ile Saint-Louis. So that's the island that's next to Ile de la Cité, to the east of it. So you're right in the heart of Paris. If you go for dinner there, it's so charming. You're walking over bridges with this beautiful yellow lighting, which they changed the damn color of the lights in Paris, which is a tragedy. They used to be a much warmer color temperature. Now they're a little colder. So anyway. But on Pont Neuf and on these islands, you still have a lot of those warm lights. So it's so charming. And then you arrive at this place. It used to be a pharmacy, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. And they've tried to preserve a lot of that heritage of the location.
Nice.
And really cool ingredients. Like I ate a breed of duck there, which I was not familiar with at all. It's called Critic. I don't know if you know from.
No, I just know about the col vert because they have a green neck.
So I think it's crossed with it's a domestic breed and a wild duck. That it's a cross between the two that almost died out because of bird flu. So you have this like one side that's really gamey and then another that's a little bit more delicate, like domestic duck. And I had that there for the first time. It's out of season now, so you won't get that. But the menu changes all the time, and it's top notch. So that's one.
Nice.
Pétrel is another one. Pétrel in the 9th, especially for like a more romantic mood. I definitely recommend Pétrel. A lot of celebrities like to go there, which is not why you should go there. But it's like it kind of has this very intimate feel. It's a little bit dimly lit. You can't really see inside from outside, so that might be one reason the celebs like it. And it's not like I don't see it on a lot of lists or anything.
That's good.
And I'm biased.
It's good insider knowledge.
Yeah, full disclosure, it's the some of the partners there are people very, very close to me. So, but even if they weren't, I would recommend that
But
place.
you did say, actually, as a good rebound question, you did say like you've stopped doing like those paid, like to avoid being biased too heavily.
Yeah.
Like you don't accept the invites or the paid collaboration.
Right.
Because you think that's going to influence your job.
Yeah, I don't accept paid collaborations to make videos about restaurants. And for the moment, I've stopped accepting the invitations, even the free meals, which is just a terrible business decision on my part. But I'm trying to make something that I can be proud of, in air quotes. I would rather just be objective about the place that I'm visiting. And it creates an awkward situation, even if you tell somebody, a lot of times restaurants, I get DMs all the time to invite me to the restaurant and say, oh, we're happy to offer you a free meal in exchange for a video. And even if you specify that, sure, I'll come, but I'm under no obligation to post. And then later you decide not to post, it's just an awkward situation. And
yeah, you feel like you owe them something.
Yeah, exactly. And then on the other hand, it means that you're going to more restaurants that you otherwise wouldn't have gone to. So you're going to be disappointed a higher percentage of the time, in my opinion. So I've accepted a couple invitations, and I'm happy to accept them when the restaurant is already on my list, like especially if it's up high on my list and I'm planning on going there, which has happened before, and then I happen to get an invitation from that restaurant. Then it's
you
like,
have a list, like we need the list.
Yeah, it's like I was about to reserve, so I might as well go. Yeah, I do have a list, but I'm holding on to it tight.
And also, because I like to be cheeky,
Yeah.
according to you, but what would make France one of the best cuisine in the world?
People get mad when you say that. I think it is one of the best cuisines in the world, but people get very mad when you say that.
That's what I'm saying. One of, so that not to say the.
Right. Well, yeah, it's very much its own thing, and I think the reason it deserves that reputation is just because of the care that goes into it from every level, down to the agriculture, the farmers and the producers that not only on an individual basis take care about what they do, but there are so many organizations on the agricultural level that protect integrity in processes, integrity in methods, and that are regulating, like to uphold. There's so many institutions in France in general that uphold the values and professionalism of different jobs.
And labels like AOP.
Right, like you have these AOP, you have these geographical protections, which mean a certain thing about a cheese or a product, or even a butter. We were talking about butter before. Like to be in France, or in Paris rather, to qualify for the best croissant de Paris, the best croissant in Paris competition, you must use a specific butter, AOP, beurre de Charente, Poitou AOP, because it's the gold standard, and it's very strictly regulated. That the cream that they use to make it is given a certain culture to kind of ferment to relax the proteins, and then you have a much higher fat content. So it's like these little details that people wouldn't.
Yeah,
it's
fascinating.
It's an obsessive culture, which is cool. And then you
yeah,
have
and down to the individual, like even like the non-chef, like we talk about food kind of all the time.
Right.
This is like kind of one of the main topics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, the French are not like Italians in many ways, but you're like Italians in the way that while you're eating, you're talking about what you're going to eat and what you have eaten that day, or like what you're going to eat tomorrow. So
this is an important part of the discussions.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what else are you going to talk about?
Well, I like that, but I'm biased, definitely. Well, but I could ask you so much questions, but like, Max, this has been really fascinating. Thank you so much for all your insight, talking about all of this. But before we wrap it all up, if people want to reach out, get in touch with you, follow your work, where can I find you?
Well, you can find me on Substack, Max Krekel, or Club des Mille. So a little play on words from the Club des Cent we were talking about. Club des in French, and then meal as in meal in English.
We'll put that in the section.
It's not as easy to tell somebody. And then on Instagram, Max Club des Mille as well. And yeah, so on there I'm just sharing my interest. I don't pretend to be an authority on any of these topics. It's just I'm a guy who's passionate about this stuff, and I like to make content and writing for other people who are passionate about it. So
that's amazing. Well,
yeah.
Mark, thank you so much again. If you've enjoyed this, you can comment down below, and we'll be sharing Mark's details also in the description. Thank you so much. See you soon in the next episode.
Thanks so much, Fabien.